Hello,
Hi.
and welcome to Marmalade Talk,
Why isn't that
where
our
we talk about all
podcast?
your favorite spreads, jams,
And
and of
jellies.
course, marmalade.
I like the raspberries, but those seeds gonna get stuck in my teeth and then just gets uncomfortable for the rest of the day.
The blackberry is the tastiest, but it is also the thickest of the spreads.
I prefer a nice orange.
Ooh, orange marmalade.
Stop,
It would be
stop.
Smells very
so
well
You're
perfect
making me
on
salivate.
bread.
with a scone. A scone with orange marmalade.
Oh, wait, sorry, that's our other show. We're,
Oh,
we're supposed to be doing the Tudor
sorry,
one.
guys.
Whoopsie!
Okay, sorry.
Tudor marmalades.
Hello and welcome to Tudor, I Hardly Know Her. There we go, that's the right one.
Hey.
We're in the right channels this time. I'm your host, Garrett, and with me, as always, is Jeff.
Hi!
And
Hello.
that's it. There's nobody else.
That's the only ones.
Just the ghost of your ex.
I found someone though else in here. I don't know if they're important though.
Who's that?
Poe.
Our cats.
They are
Those
here to
cats.
contribute.
One of them I love. No, we're also joined by Emily because without her, the show would not happen.
I think what you mean is Emily is joined by you guys.
But I'm the host.
But I know the most.
But I'm. Yeah, you're right.
She does have the mostest though.
Yes.
The
Jeff's a
hostess with
suck-up
the
because he's married
mostest,
to me.
but she's also a ghostest.
I am the ghostiest of the hostiest. Tedra just bumped this.
So, Emily, what are we talking about today on Tudor I Hardly Know?
Fashion, baby.
What?
We're talking about clothes.
Oh,
Yeah, so today's a culture episode, not a person episode.
which is kind of weird for us. It's a little different.
It will be weird. Very informative. So, this is actually something I knew nothing about. I mean, I knew a little bit about it, but not much. So, I think this will be really interesting. And I'm currently balancing two books. One is a book with actual knowledge, and the other is my notes, which is paraphrased knowledge. So, I got lots to talk about, boo.
All right, let's do it.
You guys want to hear the fun Henry fact of the day?
Oh, thank God you got it.
Yes, I do. Hold on, let me find it. I wrote it down.
Oh
Henry
God,
VIII.
you don't
Okay,
have it.
this is related to today's episode too.
Okay.
Henry VIII. Okay, so during these times, zippers did not exist.
Mhm.
So they laced a lot of clothes up, and pins were very important for keeping clothes together. So apparently, pinning was one of the worst jobs you could. I'm not actually pinning, but making the pins was one of the worst jobs you could do because it took forever to make these pins by hand because they didn't have factories back then. They did. It was called child labor. So Henry VIII wanted to keep the pin making in his own country. So he created a law that said every pin head had to be soldered onto it. So imagine like a needle pin imagine a needle pin Do you know what a needle pin looks like, Garrett?
No, I don't.
It's a sharp piece of small metal, and on the top it's got a flat head, like a screw,
Okay.
except very tiny and very sharp. Well, they
Like a
used
really tiny nail.
yeah, like a really tiny nail. And Henry VIII made it a law that the heads had to be soldered onto it. So it was already very slow work. And he made that a law, making it even slower. So here's an idea of how long it took to make these pins. A good pin maker could make 20 pins in an hour. So it would take him about 50 hours of work a week to make 8 pennies worth of pins.
Jesus.
And that could buy him one loaf of bread a day, and that was pretty much it.
Proud work industry.
So anyway, Henry VIII made life even worse for some people, not just his wives. So that was
And
today's fun fact
Was your
about
silly
Henry.
Henry fact of the day.
Do 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 do. Wow wow.
All right, well, let's get into the fashion proper of the times.
Cool. What do you know about fashion of the times, Gare?
Nothing. What I know about fashion, all I've seen from the paintings is about it. And this television show I watched called Rain gave me a very good insight onto what the clothes were like back in the day. Incredibly detailed and extravagant.
I mean, that's true.
They were made of some type of fabric.
Very good job, guys. You're so
They
smart.
covered your boobs and your wieners.
Not necessarily. You failed. Goodbye. You are the weakest
What?
link.
Oh, God.
Wow, that's an old throwback.
It's the best throwback.
Yeah, Jesus.
That's also
Do
an
kids-
old throwback.
Do kids even know what that is?
No.
A throwback?
That's weird.
No, the
throw-
weakest link.
Goodbye.
And that's the end of our podcast. Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Today you learned about pins.
Okay, fashion.
Okay, so first we'll talk a little bit about sumptuary laws and why fashion was important.
What is a sumptuary law?
It essentially meant that only certain classes of people could wear certain clothes. It was really weird.
Really?
Yeah, so like a poor peasant couldn't go in and buy a Louis Vuitton bag. You see, guys, that's a joke because Louis Vuitton bags didn't exist back then.
You don't know that.
I'm pretty sure Louis Vuitton bags did not exist back then.
Okay, you're probably right.
Probably right. Okay, so let's start with everybody's favorite historical fashion, the codpiece.
Oh my God, yes, I do want to learn about these.
There's not a lot to say, but during the reign of
what
Henry,
exactly was a codpiece, though?
it was just a stuffed, it was like a picture of football cut in half long ways.
Okay.
And it was stuffed and placed in the nether region of the boys. And I bet you it really, I mean, with all that heat trapped down there, it probably didn't do much for sperm quality. Which was probably not good after the Black Plague and all of the sweating sickness.
For anybody who doesn't know, a codpiece is something that you put where your junk is if you're a dude to make it look bigger.
Yes. And during the reign of Henry VIII, because
His was the biggest.
everybody was hypermasculine, they overstuffed them. So, yeah. Like just
Visualizing
leaking
this
out
really
of the
huge,
sides.
like balls, like a basketball. Just
What did they stuff them with? Just like cotton or
Probably wool.
or cloth?
small
or
animals.
Wool.
wool,
Something like wool. Yeah, I don't think,
flowers, make it smell good.
I don't. This book I used as my primary source didn't list cotton as a single cloth used.
I say, was cotton heavily used though in
Wool
England?
was.
Yeah.
Wool was.
Wool
Cotton
was, but
wasn't. That's why.
because that's why it's a big deal in the
That's
States.
why during the Civil War, England supported the South because they needed their cotton.
Yeah, I thought that's what I thought. Cotton's a very heavy.
You guys, I learned that from
agriculture-
National Treasure too.
Yeah,
Nick Cage taught me all I know.
because with
He
England
should
they
be
raise
a
a lot of
guest one
sheep
day.
there. That's where that's why the
Yeah.
wool industry is so important to them because that was like their main source of making fabric.
Yep. Garrett, what were you gonna say about Nick Cage?
Oh, I said we should ask him to be a guest on the show.
He would do it.
He'll do anything.
What do you think he should? What episode do you think he should do? It's got to be a good one.
Oh, I don't know. We'll
Oh no,
The
I have an idea.
The
Nope.
different treasures of England.
Nope. Nick Cage has to reenact a famous Henry VIII scene. Monologue, something like that. He's got to do it.
Cage, if you're, I can call him Cage. We're friends like that. If you guys are listening,
You
have him call
guys.
us.
Why is Nick Cage you guys?
Because in his head there's multiple cages.
Because he is every character.
He is not
I
a character.
said
He
if
is every
your
person.
guys, if you're people,
Oh, his people.
his people, you
His
know.
plebes.
You have your people call my people.
Nick, your plebes. Have him call us. We're pumped. So, cod pieces. They were overstuffed during Henry VIII's reign. Also, men had like puffier shoulder sleeves things, like the puffy slit clothes they wore. And
Yeah.
okay.
Look,
Men-
they look like those things you put on the feet of turkeys.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I always thought they were.
I mean, that's probably exactly what they were. They just wanted their turkey to be finely dressed. Those were also very large during Henry VIII's reign. But then when Elizabeth became queen, they were like, oh, I guess our really powerful ruler is a woman, so we shouldn't be hyper masculine. So they went back to normal stuffing of their cod pieces during her reign. But, like, can you imagine Henry VIII was probably the one to start the overstuffing? Can you imagine one day he just walks out of his room, or like, no, one day he's getting dressed and they're like, here, sir, I stuffed your cod piece for you. And he's like, no, it's got to be bigger. And they're like, really, sir? And he's like, yeah. So he just like takes a bag of wool and just shoves it down his pants. And then he walks out with this giant cod piece. Like, literally the book describes it as so stuffed it looks like he's erect. Can you imagine Henry VIII walking out of his apartments like that?
Good morning to you. Good morning
No
to you,
shame
apparently.
at all. Like at some point he didn't realize like this is a little excessive.
Nobody. Do you think anybody
Do you-
told
I was
Henry
gonna
VIII
say,
he was being excessive?
And do you think Henry VIII would ever have thought himself as excessive?
Off with
Like,
his head.
people were so
which one,
afraid
sir?
of Henry VIII that they didn't even want to tell him he was dying. They were afraid.
But
Oh.
Henry had to have thought like, you know, his
Actually-
we all know that wieners don't continue to grow like that. So the ladies who see him aren't going to be like, oh wow, it got an entire like 3 feet bigger.
Oh, you're huge. And then he takes off his pants and they're like, oh.
Yikes.
But once again, he's the king. They're not going to tell him anyways.
So I would like to point out that, like, I've heard many men complain about women wearing makeup currently, like in today's time period. And they're like, oh, women are lying when they wear makeup. And I'm like I really just now want to carry around a picture of Henry VIII's codpiece and been like, let's talk about lying.
You know what, Jeff? You and we're going to bring back the codpiece.
Jeff can't.
I'm going to bring back the codpiece.
Thank you.
Like I said, I don't need one.
Oh.
I do.
Oh.
Hey, I also just remembered another fun fact about Henry VIII.
Go on.
The day before he died, he was still signing death warrants. Not kidding.
Irony.
you with me.
If I'm going down, I'm taking you all with me.
All you bastards are going down with me.
So Jeff and I want to use the name Henry as a boy's name. And I've told a lot of people that. And I get asked a lot if we're going to use Hank as a nickname. And I just don't get that.
Hank is a nickname?
For Henry.
Yeah, I don't get that. That's like Will and Billiam.
You know what also...
Or other way around.
How William? I am Billiam.
Oh, can we call you Will?
That's
William.
I
weird.
prefer Billiam.
Willy Billy Vanilli.
Yeah, I never understood how William became Bill.
I thought you were about to say Wilhelm.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that's a Welsh thing.
Huh.
Maybe the Henry Hank thing is too. But anyway, that's the fun fact. So, let's talk about boobies.
Oh, yes.
Okay, if
Now I'm
you
alert.
That
it-
was really gross.
Jeff's
I don't know why I
cod
did it
piece
like
just
that.
got larger. If you guys had to guess, what do you think would be the biggest no-no about a woman revealing skin? Like, which body part do you think? And that's-
Shoulders
Garrett?
or ankles.
I was gonna say ankles, probably. The stomach, the midsection.
Do you guys wanna hear what it is?
Ass crack.
Women should never reveal bare arms or their legs, including the ankle.
Why are they carrying around bare arms?
I don't know. It's a weird English tradition.
Why? Yeah. Why is that? Why is that a thing?
I can't tell if you're asking about Jeff's joke or about actual bare
no,
arms.
the serious one. Ugh.
I don't know. Not sure. But cleavage was, you were able to show as much cleavage as you wanted as long as you weren't married. So like it's like a, hey boys, come and get it. So It was reported that Elizabeth I at one point had a gown that was cut down to her navel. Like, it was such a deep neckline. Imagine J-Lo's green dress. You know, the iconic one where it went down to her belly button?
No.
I remember it.
Google, Garrett, get on your phone
Okay.
and type in J-Lo, as in Jennifer Lawrence, or Lopez. That's J-Law, sorry. Sorry, Jennifer Lopez and Jennifer Lawrence. J-Lo, green dress.
Oh, okay. Hey, J-Lo.
Now look up the guys from South Park
No.
wearing green dress. Because they wore the exact same dress the next year.
We don't need to do that. So Elizabeth apparently wore a dress that was that deeply cut, and it says that it showed her whole breast. So I'm not sure if like her tits were just hanging out.
Oh, man. Trey Parker looks great.
We do not need to talk about Trey Parker.
I love it, man. I love those guys. Good job.
So anyway,
But anyway, so Elizabeth would.
I was talking about
she
Elizabeth's
was just
boob,
flapping
and
the
you
girls
were
out
like-
for everyone to see.
I was talking about Elizabeth's boob, and you were like, "Ooh, Trey Parker." So
I noticed. I was listening to the last episode, and I do mention how good the guys looked, and that you see a lot of wieners. So we'll just keep it as a running joke, where I just keep saying really, really, real things that really implicate me as being gay.
Yes. Implicate.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Implicate.
Garrett is single. Come and get this.
He's
Green
not picky. He'll
dress.
take either.
Trey Parker.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the sumptuary laws. Do you guys want to hear about who could wear what?
Yeah, this is the part that
Yes.
fascinates me, that
Okay.
they had laws
Yeah,
around
this is-
clothing.
This is cool.
It is incredibly specific. Incredibly. For example, woolen cloth made abroad could only be worn by a lord, the child of an earl, a marquess, and a knight of the garter. But that's woolen cloth made abroad, not just wool, but woolen cloth made abroad. There's some really fine fabric. There's cloth of gold and silver, which is gold and silver cloth. And tinsel, satin, sable, they could only be worn by a peer of the realm. So like a duke or princess or king, queen. Let's see. A lord, the son of a lord, a knight, or if you made at least 200 pounds a year, could wear velvet, leopard furs, and embroidered clothes. So that one was really interesting, the embroidered clothes one. Because I figured, if just a lazy peasant woman who didn't want to get out in the fields decided to embroider, she could wear it. But apparently not. And then if you made at least 100 pounds a year, you could wear taffeta, satin, damask.
Taffeta,
And-
darling.
That's what I thought of too. And you could wear fur as long as it was from a wild animal in England. So
What?
Yeah.
So only from England, like even
Only
if it can't.
English fur.
So who are the fashion police that are enforcing these laws?
Is that
Well,
where
that's
fashion?
the thing.
Literal
Is that where
fashion
fashion police come from?
Yes, Henry VIII busting down your door with his giant codpiece.
Stop! That shirt does not go with that pants.
It's Tim Gunn.
Oh, that'd be so great. I want to visualize Tim Gunn telling people they can't wear certain clothing.
I would listen to Tim Gunn. So it was a law, but they weren't strictly enforced. So it didn't.
You would
I
probably
mean,
be looked down upon.
the
though. Like
fines
nobody would
were
be like, "Help, police! Somebody's wearing the wrong
no, it's
shirt."
not even like that. The sumptuary laws were you could technically get fined for it, but the fines were pretty minuscule. So
Right.
it really wasn't that big of a deal. Although there were laws in 1533 and 1536, and then when Elizabeth became queen, she basically re-signed the laws. So that was really fascinating to me. Hey, I haven't said fascinating in a while, guys.
Drink.
I'm already drunk. Okay, so fashion and the cloth you wore was really more about a status symbol. It portrayed your wealth. So, do you remember way back when we were talking about Catherine of Aragon?
Yes.
Okay, you remember how during right after Prince Arthur died, and she was just at Henry VII's will, like he could or could not give her money, and she was broke. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. She had to sell a lot of her clothes, and she wore a lot of like beat up clothes, and a lot of them had to be restyled and recut and fixed and patched. And so if fashion was a status symbol, imagine how much, like, it's got to be pretty embarrassing being around a bunch of others when they're fancily dressed and up to date and you're not. But it's even more so in that time period because it was like declaring to everyone that she's not worth anything. And part of the reason these things were so expensive is because of the dye used to make them. So have you heard that purple is a royal color?
Oh, yeah.
You want to know why?
Because only royalty could wear purple?
Because they could only the royalty could afford purple. So it was one of the hardest dyes to create. And it was made with something called a Mediterranean whelk. And you needed 30,000.
A whelk is like a slug or some sort of...
I'd assume it's a plant, but let's go to our...
I thought a whelk was like a snail or a...
A whelk is a snail. You're right.
Man, I'm good.
Good job. So you needed 30,000 of these little whelk snail shits to make a single ounce of purple dye.
Huh.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So it was super expensive.
I'm just visualizing people trying to like spend all this time just hunting or like trying to farm snails.
Yeah, but you're probably rolling in dough if you're spending that much time doing that.
No, that's the baker.
Shut up. That's for another episode. So, an interesting thing about the English style was that like there really wasn't an English style unless you say it's eclectic. It's like a mishmash of everything. So they would take different fashionable aspects of other countries. So like French fashion, that was a thing. Like when you were in France, you wore a certain fashion and that was the way it was. Same with Spain, the Dutch. Shut up, Jeff.
Dutch.
The Dutch, Holland, all that. Is the Dutch and Holland the same thing?
I believe so.
Don't quote me on that.
Well, let's just ignore the Holland and just stick with the Dutch. Garrett, are Dutch and Holland the same thing?
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Jeff, can you cut out my stupidity?
Oh, in the podcast,
Guys, no,
yes.
Dutch is Deutschland.
Jeffrey,
That's
you're
true.
mean. So anyway, the English would kind of take bits and pieces that they liked and make them into their own style. So they'd have like a French gown with Spanish sleeves and a Dutch cape and all this shit. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Okay. So now I'm actually going to go over. Hold on. Oh, here's something interesting. For how many clothes, how much shit Elizabeth had, Queen Elizabeth, she only had 2 tailors.
Huh.
Yeah. That kind of intrigued me.
Man, they must have been really good on like on job then for life.
Okay. Here's where we're going to go over who wore what. Like the women versus the men.
Let's hear what they're wearing.
That was a good Tim Gunn impersonation.
I try.
Good job.
That's my only one.
If you were better, if you could do a Tim Gunn impersonation regularly, I'd say we do a whole episode where Tim Gunn is critiquing.
All the different fashions.
Yeah.
Look at this outfit that she's wearing.
I love Tim Gunn. Tim, if you're listening, we love you.
Honestly, that'd be great if he got on the podcast and did an episode of that. We talked about the fashion.
He doesn't even need to talk, or he doesn't even need to talk about the fashion of this time. He could just talk. It'd be mesmerizing. Okay, so here's a rundown of the clothes women wore. First, I'm going to name it all, and then I'll tell you what they are. Okay. There's the smock, stockings and hose, socks, waistcoats, bodies or kirtle, farthingale, petticoat, a stomacher, a gown, doublets and jerkins, ruffs, parlets? Shit, I can't read my own writing. A mantle, veils, shoes and boots, and that was just on the body. That doesn't include hair stuff and hats and jewels. Got it all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Smocks were basic undergarments. And then there was stockings, which are exactly what they sound like. Same with socks. Waistcoats were tailored to the waist. And they were worn over the head. Like you pulled them on over your head. And they were worn over the smocks. Then there was the kirtle, which it's really hard to understand exactly what all this is. The farthingale is a hoop, so it was made of whalebone and it'd go over your waist. Then you'd have the actual gown. Oh no, sorry. Then you'd have the petticoats, which is the long skirt in the front, and then the stomacher, which is, I think, a single band that goes down the front, and then the gown, and then doublets and jerkins, which you'd wear over that, and then the ruff, with like the Elizabethan frilly shit around your neck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought that was just to keep them from licking their wounds.
Also, yes.
Okay.
A mantle covered your shoulders when you were cold, and then you'd have a veil that was pinned to your headdress, and then you'd wear your shoes or your boots.
That's a lot of clothes.
How much do you think that all weighed together?
I was just I bet you it's like 10 pounds, depending. Like if they're wearing damask is one of those heavy materials that nowadays we'd probably use for curtains. So like 10, 15
geez.
pounds.
No, I'm thinking it's probably more like 20, 25.
I think.
Because you think of how much is on those dresses
Well,
and how huge they are. That's a decent amount of weight.
Okay, so I follow. Okay, if you guys want an idea of what these pieces are individually, there is this awesome woman named Angela Clayton, and she is like a teenager, which is super intimidating to me. And she makes her own period accurate costumes, and she made a Tudor gown with a lot of these pieces. So you should absolutely go check her out. Just Google Angela Clayton, Clayton, and you'll see some of her amazing stuff. But she goes over what these pieces are, so you guys can get an image, which obviously you're listening to a podcast, so I can't give it to you, of that. Got it? Good.
Get it. Got it. Good.
Okay, so when it comes to their hair, they didn't like do a traditional washing of their hair. They used linen cloths for rubbing their hair clean. And they actually had hair dye back then. Like they would try and go blonde. They'd essentially try and match their hair to their clothes. So like Queen Elizabeth had a shit ton of wigs. Now she was also balding, so there was that. They had jewelry and fans. Country women didn't wear as many jewels. They might have a ring, but that was it. But women didn't really wear wedding rings. It wasn't really that like you would reveal that you were married through what you wore, like apparently covering your boobies, and how you wore your hair. So I think I mentioned this in the Rain episode. Women of that time period didn't wear their hair down unless they were royalty or unmarried. And so like it's a sign of their virtue. And actually even the unmarried thing is, I don't think that's true. I think it's just only if you were royalty. On your wedding day you would wear it loose. So it was pretty much covered all the time. Okay. You guys want another fun fact?
Sure.
You know those wacky Puritans?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't like anyone, including mirrors, like looking glasses, like the thing you see your own reflection in. Do you guys want to take a guess what they called mirrors?
Soul Stealers.
Close.
Oh,
Devil windows.
So much closer. The Devil's Bellows.
Okay.
Those wacky Puritans. They
no wonder they kicked them out.
Right. They apparently they approved of Elizabeth I in the beginning because she wore a lot of black and white. Apparently wore a lot of black and white. I'm sorry. Elizabeth wore a lot of black and white, so they approved of her, but then she started wearing more ornate clothes, and then I guess she became the Devil's Bellows. So that's it for women, I think. Hold on. Let me consult my second set of notes. Ooh, let's talk about jewelry.
Okay.
Okay, so stones meant different things back then. So diamonds meant love. Emeralds protected against enchantments. The sapphire was a royal stone. And the amethyst... the amethyst was good against drunkenness.
Okay.
So it'd be like, hey, babe, can I please have my amethyst? I'm going to get schmammered.
I'm going out to the bar later tonight. You mind throwing me that amethyst over there? These sound like different gems that give you stat boosts in video games.
Okay, do you guys want to hear
The
more?
amethyst prevents against drunkenness.
And
The
also
emerald
boost your
prevents against
resistance.
poison.
I think that isn't that a stone in the new Zelda game, Jeff? The amethyst of drunkenness.
No, that's stupidnamium.
Okay, more
No, you're thinking of
more
Avatar.
Puritan stuff. More Puritan stuff. Okay,
Puritan alert! Puritan alert!
here's some Puritan quotes. Oh wait, no, this is the same thing I said, but I'm gonna read the whole quote to you. Shut up. The devil could never have found a more pestilent evil than this. These looking glasses be called the devil's bellows, wherewith he bloweth the blast of pride into our hearts, and those that look in them may be said to look in the devil's the devil's arse, while he
Now-
infuseth the venomous wind of pride into their souls. So essentially, looking into a mirror is looking into Satan's asshole.
Now, Emily.
Yes.
So I have a question about the people who would make these clothes or jewelry.
Yeah.
Where would they rank? Would they be part of the peasantry, or would they be a little bit higher up, or?
See, I think if you were wealthy enough to have these clothes, you had a personal tailor. Like Elizabeth had 2 of them. So, for example, because they took so many clothes or fashions from other countries, what they would actually do is people would send them portraits of themselves, and then the English would be like, oh, hey, make that dress for me. And they would actually make fashion dolls. So these dolls would get imported with the latest fashions on them, and then like the little girls would get to play with the dolls once the dresses had been recreated. So I'm pretty sure they had tailors to make these. I don't think it was like... Now, the only thing I'm not sure about is the fabric. And I've tried to find something about how the fabric was made, but I have not a clue. Like, I'm sure that was probably like, maybe there were certain... Like, you know how you hear about certain nun groups that make really awesome fabric or lace or something? Maybe it was something like that, where there were guilds that made certain fabrics. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Okay? Let's pretend
Okay.
I know the answer.
It's a guild. Let's go with that.
Okay, a guild made the taffeta. Okay, you know how we talked about doing a cooking episode?
Oh my god, yes, I can't wait for that one.
I have our next recipe.
Oh,
Okay.
Will it beat sugar salad?
Yes. Wash barrow's grease, which is the lard of castrated pigs,
That's
Hello.
specific.
oftentimes in maydew that hath been clarified in the sun till it be exceedingly white. Then take marshmallow roots, scraping off the outsides, then make thin slices of them and mix them. Set them to macerate, never seen that word before, in a seething bath and scum it well till it be thoroughly clarified, and it will come to be rope. Do you guys want to know what we just made? Makeup.
Oh. Why did it be a castrated pig though?
I don't know.
Like, what part of it being castrated makes this all much better?
I don't know. You want to castrate yourself and find out?
No, I have a cat.
Ha ha ha. I mean, that's better than the other makeup, which gave you lead poisoning.
Details. At least you look good while you're dying.
Exactly. Okay. Time for men's clothing. So
Ooh.
boys actually wore dresses until they were about 5 or 6, at which point they were breeched. That just simply
They were-
means that they wore pants. Because pants were
Okay.
Okay.
Pants were
I
called
say
breeches.
they're
not
breached
like
like
somebody just like,
like a
bust a
whale.
hole through
They were
them.
thrown out of the water onto a beach.
no. I thought like breached like they broke in and like found a bunch of information on them.
Man, I'm not allowed to make a political joke.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Putting the kibosh on that shit.
Okay.
God, I had a question. I completely forgot it.
We're talking about boys in dresses.
Oh God.
Boys wore dresses until they were about 5 or 6, and then they'd be breeched, which just means they wore breeches, which is pants.
Here's your first pair of pants, son.
Father,
Oh, thank you.
these are my first pants, and I pass them on to you, my son.
They still have my shit stain.
Oh, gross, Emily. You made
Aw.
it gross.
What the fuck? Fine. So men wore shirts, and then they wore hosen or breeches, and it also mentions slops, but it doesn't explain what slops are. So let's just
That's
ignore
the pants that was passed down to him.
So hosen was anything worn beneath the waist, so that includes socks. It was fashionable in Elizabeth's time to have separate breeches and stockings instead of like a single piece. And the people at the bottom of the social order wore leather or serge breeches, and at the top they wore velvet, satin, and damask in the French or Venetian style. So they wore drawers, which is underwear, but a lot of people didn't really wear it. They would actually just tuck their shirt tails between their legs. Yeah. I thought that was a little bit strange. And then they had a waistcoat, which is similar to what the women wore. It was worn over the shirt, but under a coat or the doublet. And then it was followed by the doublets, and those were laced or buttoned, and it opens at the front. The ruff, which men wore as well as women. Then jerkins and gowns. And hold on, I got a quote about gowns. Okay. A gown was ankle-length, fur-trimmed, loose-sleeved, and normally dark-colored. They're often worn by dignified men of a certain age. And they were the mark of a man with a profession. So academics, lawyers, physicians, and clergymen. Got it?
Now, you talking about how they wear like dark clothing. We were talking about the dyes earlier.
Yeah.
Like purple obviously was the really expensive one to get. Was it like cheaper to have a black outfit because black
No.
was probably easier, or was it easier just to have like a brown?
Black was just as expensive.
Okay.
It didn't say it in this book, but I do know that black is an exceptionally expensive dye.
'Cause it's such a
and
dark
that's why when
color.
you look at portraits, the wealthy wear them a lot because it was a symbol of how much they could afford to spend.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And they also wore cloaks, hats, shoes, and boots. There wasn't really a single fashion for hair and beards. It wasn't like everybody had a beard or
It was
nobody
kind
had
of
a
like
beard.
open game. Like anyone
Yeah.
who wants it can have it.
Pretty much.
They didn't quite put a law on that
Pretty
area.
much. Yeah. Did I tell you guys that high heels were invented during this time?
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Up until this time, they were flat shoes.
They're like, you know what we really need to do is make women more uncomfortable.
Happy International Women's Day.
Yeah.
A week late, but whatever. And then There's something else I was. Oh, actually, men wore high heels because they fit in the when you're riding a horse. They fit in the part where you put your feet.
See, that makes sense. Well, it's like how you see men's boots back then kind of had at least the divot. And I think that was kind of the same reasoning behind it.
Cowboy boots still have them.
Yeah, because it's a good way to kind of get
Yep.
hook into the reins, I think they're called.
No, the rein is what is around their. They have the bit in their mouth, and the reins are
Okay.
attached to the bit.
Sorry.
It's the
Hence why I'm not the one teaching
Shit.
this podcast.
rein is a horse thing in a shitty show, not not anything to do with Tudors. Okay, so there were certain accessories men always had on them. Do you guys want to guess what they were? They're strange.
Accessories?
3 accessories men always had. You
I
might
feel
be
like
able to guess one
rings
of them.
would be one a lot. Well,
Anything
upper
they
men.
would, and when I say accessories, I mean anything they would carry on them. It doesn't necessarily mean to be jewelry,
Oh.
glasses, etc. So what do
Coin
you think?
purse?
What'd you say?
Coin purse?
Good job.
All right.
What else? They're weird.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think.
a walking stick.
No,
I don't know why.
they didn't do much walking. They just had their peasants carry
knife.
them.
Well, they had to hit the peasants with something.
Garrett, what?
I said a knife.
Yes.
Oh man,
Nice.
I'm
They
really good at this.
they carried a
Oh.
knife for day-to-day stuff and eating.
Because you gotta look badass when you're eating that apple. You can't
Okay.
just bite into it. You just gotta like cut little pieces off it.
Exactly. I don't think you're going to be able to get this last one. It is strange.
What is it?
It's a comb.
Okay.
But good
But a
one with the
switchblade comb.
good one with the knife,
2 out
Garrett.
of 3. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then a lot
Yeah,
of
you guys think that I don't know what I'm talking about.
While
right.
he's sitting there on his phone.
Shh. Hey Siri. Okay, and then a lot of men, even those of modest means, would carry a sword. So Siri just did a search for me because I jokingly said, "Hey Siri," and this is what it heard me say. I'm okay, or him okay. A lot of those of modest means would carry a sword, and Siri gave me 6 marks of biblical modesty. How God brings sexy back. Hold on, can somebody please make a video of somebody dressed as God dancing to Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake?
Isn't that
I
just
think that's what they
Timberlake?
sing in churches now.
I'm bringing sexy back.
I'm bringing sexy back.
I always just assumed
And then
God
they ring
looked
the
like
bells.
Justin Timberlake.
Close, very close, Jeff. Well, thank you, Siri, for that little laugh. Okay, so let's talk about how they washed clothes back then, because they really didn't. Okay. Sorry, I'm flipping
Okay.
between a couple things. All right, so for some fabrics, you couldn't really wash it, like silk, cloth of gold, taffeta, and satin. The best you could do was remove the lining, and that could be washed because that wasn't going to be made of silk, and then it would be reattached. It's not as simple as unlacing a few things. They had to rip it apart and then re-sew it back together. So it probably didn't get washed very often. But for a lot of clothes, for clothes probably like velvet. Actually, I don't even know if velvet was around back then. So like taffeta, satin, things like that. It would get brushed with what we would consider a normal hairbrush, like a boar's bristle brush. And then it would get perfumed and wrapped in linen. So you couldn't, like, if you got what we consider a stain on your clothes, then it was pretty useless after that.
Well, back then they're probably like, oh, I'll just get a new pair of clothing.
Yeah. So I love this book that I got this research from. So you guys, if anybody wants to know, a lot of my research came from a book called The Time Traveler's Guide to Elizabethan England. and it's by Ian Mortimer, and it's really good. So here are their directions for washing clothes. When it comes to the actual washing of woolens and linens, you need a tub, hot water, a scrubbing board for the coarser cloths, and soap, and a woman.
Oh, no.
Men do not wash things in Elizabethan England. It is exclusively women's work and is hard labor.
His hard labor. Oh, poor man can't do hard labor.
Aw.
And that's it. And I'm done.
I mean, yeah, with fashion, there's not much
That's
more
it?
you can really talk
Yeah,
about.
I'm done with that.
But I think that was like actually interesting stuff, especially hearing about that there actually was real laws about what you can and cannot wear on your class.
Yep. I don't know how long sumptuary laws were around, but I've heard of them for a long, long time.
Yeah, I wish I would have researched that. I didn't research anything.
See, I
You
am.
can research.
episode.
You can research after this, and then come up with extra stuff later.
See, I'm curious about like what you were talking about asking earlier, Garrett, about if depending on what if you were one of the person who made these clothes, if you had a certain boost in your class because maybe you made certain types of outfits over others. So I'm kind
Right,
of curious.
because when I think
Well,
of people making
peasants
clothes,
made their own
I think of
clothes.
people in a factory now doing just slaving away and making clothes, and it seems like we think of, you know what I'm talking about?
Well, the peasants, the people who were not hard manual laborers, the people who were manual laborers, you could spin your own wool. You'd shear sheep, spin the wool, maybe dye it, but you probably weren't doing that. And then you'd weave your own cloth and spin it. I had a book about this when I was a child. What I want to know about, what I'm very curious about is how things like damask were made. Damask is made with a very specific pattern. So that's what I am very curious about.
I think we talked about this before. Another episode was about how it's crazy to think about the amount of detail and all the little like accessories they added to these outfits all by hand. There was no
Yes.
sewing machine, not even like a like mechanical like one they could do like they did later on when they had ones that had a pedal and like a little rotating needle. It wasn't before electric.
Yeah.
But all this was done by hand. And then, yeah, like you're saying, trying to make all this fabric, too.
Mm-hmm.
Getting all the wool, spinning it, then finally weaving it to get into a large fabric.
Yeah.
And to get enough to, support all the people who had some sort of nobility that were wanting all these and paying for it all.
Okay, so I did just do a quick search, and it says that most clothes were made by peasants or the lower classes for the wealthy, which makes sense. I don't think tailors were like the worst of the worst. They were probably along the lines of merchants in terms of wealth.
Well, it's how like sometimes nowadays you think of some tailors as kind of a high profession for certain areas. Like nowadays with men's suits, you go to a nice tailor who can make you a nice suit.
It did take velvet did exist back then, but it doesn't say how it was made. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see how it was made. It's just now my assumption is
It's like the Science Channel's How It's Made,
I would
except
absolutely watch
1500s.
that. My assumption is that. Sorry, my assumption is that there were patterns around for these things, and there was probably some sort of framework for doing it as quickly as possible, but still, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. So that's all I got for you guys today.
Well, all right.
Well, all right. What should we talk about next time?
What's that?
What should we talk about next time?
What should we talk about next time?
Should we do another culture episode or should we do a people episode?
What if we talked about the church?
I could do that.
Yeah, I think that's one that we've been teasing for a while, talking about, and I feel like it.
Well, especially how significant it was during Henry's reign.
Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like there's a lot that we didn't get into, or there's just so much that we could get into that would shed a lot of light on things happening behind the scenes during all these reigns.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to talk about the difference between Elizabeth's reign, Mary's reign, Edward's reign, and Henry's reign versus what the rest of Europe was going through. This book I'm reading now talks a lot about how, like, Henry VIII essentially kept a Catholic reign. He just didn't want to acknowledge the Pope as the head of the church. It really came down to that. Like, he'd still burn people for Lutheranism, etc. So I think that'll be a cool episode. I'm looking forward to that one.
That'll be a good one. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, Emily, how can people find us?
You can find us on Facebook at Tudor I Hardly Know Her or on Twitter at Tudor Know Her. And thank you to all of our new fans and everybody who's been commenting and sharing things with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you to fans who are sharing this on the subreddit.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's kind of a cool place we're actually getting a little bit more attention from as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I liked that quite a bit. If you know anybody, if you have any friends who would enjoy the subject
Or
this
other
podcast,
places
just
you can
enjoy
share it.
three friends bullshitting with each other about history.
Or a good
Uh,
place, show if you have any history teachers who would you think would be fascinated to hear some of us.
If they don't mind cursing.
They don't mind cursing. Well, I knew some teachers who would not care about that part.
I know a lot who wouldn't
Yeah.
either. Did that just make sense?
Mostly, I'm thinking like third grade teachers.
All right, kids, listen to this shit.
We're gonna talk about the cod piece today, kids.
I don't fucking know. Codpiece. He was banging her. He banged her out of a window. Just a montage of all of our filthiest moments. Speaking of banging out of a window, we need to have a sex episode. That'd be a good one.
What would the sex episode be?
I don't know. We just talk about like love and romance and banging back in the day.
Well, Henry VIII removed his giant codpiece, and Anne was disappointed. I'll have you guys know that I
As a bard on a lute played an old timey version of "Let's Get It On."
That'd be pretty good. Garrett, you make that happen.
What, that song or that episode?
Also, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any other housekeeping we have to do, or anything we want to bring up?
No.
Not really. I think
no.
we're pretty good.
All right. And once again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to get a hold of us, direct message us through Facebook or on Twitter. And if you have a question you want us to bring up on the podcast, do it, and we'll do it for you.
Yes.
We'll talk about it,
Yes.
because we'd like to do that.
Yeah, do it.
So
Do it.
until next time, divorced, beheaded, died.
Divorced,
Divorced,
beheaded,
survived.
survived.
Goodbye.
Peace.
Goodbye.
Bye.